right, let's talk Notre Dame Fighting Irish football. Obviously, disappointing start to the season, but a strong performance yesterday, getting it done. I think this was a catalyst to turn around the season, especially not just that Notre Dame got a big, decisive win, but the way they went about it and how things end up shaking out for the Fighting Irish. We'll break all that down and why this makes a Notre Dame team very dangerous the rest of the way in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Notre Dame started off this season with two really tough opponents, right? We got the Miami Hurricanes, they're a top three, top four team in football. They lost by 3 points on the road. And of course, they followed that up with their week 2 loss against Texas A&M at home by a single point in sort of heartbreaking absolute fashion. I mean, that was a tough loss to take by everybody, but they were 0-2 coming in the Purdue matchup, losing 2 games by a total of 4 points against 2 top 15 teams, including one of the best teams in the country in the Miami Hurricanes. So how do they respond against Purdue? Well, they respond by just absolutely being the superior football team in every facet. And look, this is a feisty Purdue squad, right? They did a lot of good things against USC the week before. They're really well coached. They're just, again, score a lot of points. They got a lot of firepower. And we saw this Notre Dame offense finally get unleashed. Let's pull up the box score, get us started with the team stats here just to break down this performance. And we can see whatever metric you want to look at here, Notre Dame was just better. You talk about first downs, you talk about third down efficiency, which I always love. You talk about passing, right? You sit there and say it was about even, but on a yards per pass basis, we're talking about 8 for Purdue and about 14 for Notre Dame, significantly more efficient there, plus 2 interceptions, no interceptions thrown by the Fighting Irish, rushing not even close, 258 for Notre Dame, just 76 for the Purdue Boilermakers. Again, Notre Dame physically dominant there. Their running backs took over. Penalties, they were much more disciplined. Again, turnover battle, they won the turnover battle. Only 1 turnover, that fumble, and of course the 2 interceptions. And then 1 time of possession as well by a 4-minute margin, 32-28. So this was just a dominant victory across the board. I know a lot of people sit there and say, well, they gave up a lot of points. And look, Purdue can score a lot of points. And anytime you generate a lot of offense, especially in modern college football, a competent opponent will score points, right? We saw this a lot of times with the Alabama and Nick Saban dynasties where they would go from like winning games 20-3 and then they would win games 45-28. And people would be like, well, why did their defense get a lot worse? It's like, well, it wasn't that their defense got worse. It's just that their defense was getting a lot more oppositional possessions, right? If you're scoring a lot of points, you're always kicking it back to the other guys, and your defense is on the field a lot more. The other team gets a lot more bites at the apple than if you run a ground and pound, ground control offense and really lower the possession count. Notre Dame, very explosive, very outstanding efficiency across the board. A lot of big plays for their offense as well on Saturday. And look, that means your defense is going to be on the field a lot, and sometimes you're going to give up some points. It's just how it works. Let's go into the individual box score here, if you don't mind. I think there's a lot of things to really, really like here when you look at what Notre Dame did. You can see CJ Carr, excuse me, those numbers are absolutely mind-blowing. Look at that, 10 of 12 for 223, 18 yards per attempt, 2 scores, absolutely outstanding QPR coming into the fold there. Again, kind of a breakout game for CJ Carr. There's a lot of people that have been waiting to see it in terms of what this big play offense could look like, and we're starting to see it more and more. We saw a lot of it against Texas A&M. I think we saw sort of a little bit of a training wheels against Miami. We saw him really step up against the Aggies, make a lot of big plays. I think the question for me was Carr's, like, could he continue that momentum against a more inferior opponent, Purdue versus A&M? Nothing against Purdue. I think it's just a fact. I think we can all agree with that. And CJ Carr did, hyper efficient. It almost looked like he was playing an FCS team out there, the big plays and how accurate he was. Great game for him. And of course, running the football. Look, Love, a lot of people said, hey, where's Jeremiah Love? Need to see more of him. Well, you got it, right? Look at that. 19 for $157 and 2 scores. Totally be honest, I thought he actually ran for more yards than that. That's how impactful he is. I always love these players that when they have these games and they make so many big plays, we're like, man, he must have run for 300 yards because every time he touched the football, he was doing something magical. That's what Jeremiah Love's performance was. Again, 258 on the ground as a team. You can see Price there getting involved, 9 carries for 74 and 3 scores. We're seeing a really, really talented bunch here. Again, anytime you score as many points as Notre Dame did, you're going to have really good offensive stats. And you can see across the board there, a lot of big plays. Look at the receivers. You got a long of 48 for Faison. Fields gets involved with the 66. Gilbert with the 26. You can see Pauling gets a 21-yard catch in there again. So you got a lot of big plays from this offense, a lot of explosiveness. They're just better than Notre Dame in every single fashion. And it wasn't just big plays either. Like I mentioned before, they were better on third down. They took care of the football, controlled the ball across the board in terms of time of possession. This Notre Dame Fighting Irish team needed to bounce back, and they needed to show they were still a dominant force. And there was a lot of question marks, right? Listen, you lose 2 close games against good teams. Like that's going to happen. Unfortunately, it just happened back to back, right? Just the way their schedule worked out. So a lot of people are like, how good is Notre Dame? We don't know. We saw them get off to a slow start last year. I think this is a catalyst to get this thing going. Great win, great dominant win for Notre Dame. I think they're still very much a force here. Look, there's no room for error, right? They basically have to win out to make the college football playoff, I think, to be 10-2 to get in. But if they do, I still think they're a serious threat, just like they were last year. A lot of people left Notre Dame for dead last year. We saw what happened going all the way to the national championship game. People would make a mistake to do the same thing again in 2025. I think this victory over Purdue has a chance to be the catalyst to get Notre Dame headed back in that direction. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Fighting Irish fans in the comment section below. Obviously, a big win, a dominant win, all three phases of the game, of course, although you can make some argument that defense needed to clean up some things. Although I think they made enough big plays to make up for it. Regardless, give us your MVP of this massive performance. Is it Carr? Is it Love? Is it Price? Is it someone else, right? Let us know who your most valuable player was for this big-time Notre Dame victory. Put them in the comment section below. But, Miles, I will throw it over to you now. What are your thoughts on this big-time win for the Fighting Irish?
Yeah, Nick, I think this was a great win for Notre Dame. Like you said, close losses happen all the time, but just unfortunately, like you said, Notre Dame had them in back-to-back weeks against really strong opponents. But this is a team that is very, very good, and I still think they have a lot of talent here. And it's tough where you have two strong opponents your first two games of the season, and you have a freshman quarterback in there that's trying to get things figured out, coming off of a little bit of an injury, getting back into the swing of things, coming in here and doing stuff like that. It's really tough for him to do it. But now we've seen the progression. We've seen this team get better and better every single week. Now they come up against an inferior opponent, a buzzsaw against Purdue, scoring 56 points. Really, really look good. But I just want to bring up the progression week by week of what Notre Dame has been doing. And if you look here, their PFF grades by game, you can just see overall this is a team that, it shows. Week one, they're a little bit rusty. Came in against Miami, very close game, weren't able to pull it off. Week two, the offense looked a lot better, scoring 40 points, but still, unfortunately, this is a team wasn't able to get done. You lose by 1 point. It's a tough game. Then finally against Purdue, across the board, almost perfection. Like really great grades across the board for this Notre Dame team. Elite grades in a lot of categories. One thing to be concerned about possibly is the offensive line pass blocking. The grades haven't been great this year so far, but they are getting better. So hopefully they figure that out. But run blocking has been very, very good. So I think they could probably figure it out. I don't think it's something to worry about too much. But I just CJ Carr, what he's been able to do, how he's been able to go down the stretch and get better and better each game. I think that's really big for this Fighting Irish team because I think one other key here is, like you said, they got to be flawless the rest of the season, but there's a really good chance they are flawless the rest of the season when you break down their schedule. They've got Arkansas, Boise State, NC State. Tough game against a feisty Southern Cal team. That'll be a tough one. Boston College, Navy, Pittsburgh. Syracuse maybe could cause some problems, but beating Clemson, I don't think Clemson really is as good as people gave them credit for. We're seeing that this year so far. Then you got Stanford. So really toughest game there on that stretch. The only ranked team right now is Southern Cal. So really good opportunity for Notre Dame to clean up down the stretch if they can keep playing this level of football. So I think they've got the shot. I think, like you said, this is a team that's definitely going to be a contender for the college football playoff. And if they make it in, definitely a team that can, surprise some people. And I think have an opportunity to go all the way again. CJ Carr looks really great. And I think this year, finally, for Notre Dame fans, this is a key for me, is the last few years, you've been good, but then the next year, you're like, okay, well, our transfer, really old quarterback has gone on to bigger and better things. We got to scramble to go find the next guy. Well, you've got the next guy for the next couple of years on your roster in CJ Carr. So this feels good. It feels like this is a team that has a little bit of time to go out and do some big things, but they're also ready right now to do it. So I think this team feels really well. It feels constructed. It doesn't feel thrown together through the transfer portal. So I think overall, really good performance by Notre Dame. And if I'm a Fighting Irish fan, I feel not excited just about now in this big win, but I feel excited because we have a pretty bright future as well.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? CJ Carr continuing to get better. He's basically improving week by week. If you look at his yards per passing attempt, obviously, week one, not ideal, around 7-ish yards per attempt. Week two, much better, right? Closer to 10. And week three, well over 10, right? So again, he's getting much more explosive, much more efficient on a game by game basis. Now, obviously, the level of competition dropped a little bit, but still give credit for Carr for improving. And like you said, this is not like it's not like Hartman or Leonard, right? Where you got bring a guy in and like, listen, man, you got to execute day one for us. That's why you brought you in as a transfer. Notre Dame in their current situation, a little bit, I'll say, more medium and long term approach with how they're handling the quarterback position with Carr, right? And I think if you look at this team and you look at the performance against Purdue, one of the things to really highlight is they scored 56 points and they really called off the dogs after 3 quarters, right? They could have dropped 70 on Purdue. And I think it speaks to how good this offense can really be. And I know Purdue is not an elite team by any stretch of the imagination, right? They're a decent kind of feisty Big Ten opponent. I don't know if they get to 6 wins to go to a bowl game or not, but still, this is it's a Big Ten team, right? It's a legit team. It's not like, some FCS opponent or anything like that. And Notre Dame basically put 56 on them in 3 quarters and could have dropped 70, 77 if they would have kept foot on the gas. I think this Notre Dame offense starting to figure things out. Remember, they scored 40 against an SEC defense against Texas A&M, right? Now we saw, of course, 56 through 3 quarters against Purdue. This offense is going to be really, really good. And if Carr can keep this train rolling, if he can keep the momentum going, continue to improve, we'd see this running game really come back and really emerging. We're starting to see wide receivers kind of get more in rhythm, making more big plays. We've talked about Notre Dame in the past, right? They've been really good defense, fundamentals, special teams, running the football, quarterback making big plays, veteran quarterbacks making big plays. Leonard running the football, for example, played a big role in that. But now we're seeing a Notre Dame offense truly become explosive as well. That could be a hidden element, and I think will be a big part of their game going forward. And even if it doesn't propel them over the top this year, going into 2026, they'll have the playmaking ability at the quarterback position to take an even bigger leap. I think this Notre Dame Fighting Irish squad, they're better set, I think, for the future than they've been in a number of years. Like you alluded to, they relied heavy on the transfers and for those transfer quarterbacks to step up. Next year, they shouldn't have to do that. CJ Carr already trending in the right direction for 2025, but I think he'll be even better in 2026. And that obviously is great news for Notre Dame fans.